"Buy me, cowboy, I will make sure you are satisfied," said the Apache woman on sale. The sun was sinking low over the dusty streets of the frontier town. The air carried a dry, sharp scent, a mixture of sweat, leather, and wood smoke. Townsfolk hurried about their business, trying to finish their errands before darkness swallowed the streets. Among them, a lone cowboy rode slowly, his horse's hooves kicking up small clouds of dust. He was tall, with a worn hat pulled low over his eyes and a long coat that had seen better days. His boots were dusty, and the laces were frayed, but there was a quiet strength in the way he moved. He had seen much in his years on the trail, long stretches of land with nothing but wind and grass, storms that could turn the plains into rivers, and fights he never wanted but sometimes could not avoid. He came to this town seeking rest, perhaps a meal, and the chance to sell some of his herd before moving on. Yet, as he entered the marketplace, something unusual caught his attention. A small crowd had gathered near the auction block at the center of town. The cowboy slowed his horse and studied the scene. On the raised wooden platform stood a young woman, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes sharp and alert. She was wearing simple clothes that had been patched many times. Despite the roughness of her appearance, there was a strength in her posture, a confidence in the way she held her head high. The crowd murmured among themselves, voices full of curiosity and some judgment. The woman's gaze swept across them, and then, unexpectedly, she spoke. Her voice was clear and firm, cutting through the chatter. "Buy me, cowboy," she said. "I will make sure you are satisfied." Some townsfolk laughed, thinking it was a joke. Others whispered, uncertain how to react. The woman's eyes flicked to the cowboy, studying him as if measuring his soul. She did not lower her gaze when the crowd's attention turned to her, and that was when he understood something important. She was not begging for freedom. She was asserting her strength in the only way she could. The cowboy dismounted slowly, tying his horse to a post near the edge of the crowd. His boots crunched on the dusty ground as he approached the auction block. People gave him space, sensing his presence carried authority. He could see the tension in the woman's shoulders, though, and he also saw a spark in her eyes, a fire that refused to be extinguished. He thought about the choice she had offered. The words "buy me" were startling, but he understood the context. She had no power in this situation. She was a commodity in the eyes of others. Yet she was trying to take control in the only way she could. She was offering herself with a boldness that startled him, but it also touched something deep inside. She deserved more than being sold. She deserved respect, and perhaps in some way a chance to make her own decisions. The crowd grew restless as the auctioneer called out prices, but the cowboy stepped forward, raising his hand for silence. He had money, yes, but more than that, he had a choice to make. He could participate in the sale as the townsfolk expected, or he could do something unexpected. He could step away from tradition and act with integrity. He studied the woman's face again. Her eyes were not pleading, they were challenging him, daring him to see her as more than an object. He saw fear there, but also intelligence, resilience, and a sharp mind that had learned to survive in a harsh world. He felt a connection, strange and sudden, as if he could understand the weight of her life in a single glance. The auctioneer's voice echoed, demanding bids, but the cowboy ignored him. He looked around at the townsfolk who were murmuring in confusion, and then back at the woman. "I will buy her," he said, his voice firm. Not to own her, not to control her, but to take her away from a place where she had no choice. The crowd blinked in surprise, then murmured among themselves. Some nodded in approval, while others scowled at his unorthodox decision. He handed over the money, and the auctioneer reluctantly accepted it. The cowboy turned to the woman, offering her his hand. "Come with me," he said simply. There was no boast, no demand, just a clear intention to act with respect. She hesitated for only a moment, then took his hand. Her fingers were strong, her grip firm, and he could feel the courage in her touch. They left the marketplace together, walking through narrow streets and past curious townsfolk. The woman's voice broke the silence, soft but steady. "You could have ignored me," she said. "Many men would have. Why did you choose to step forward?" They continued through the town, avoiding the main streets until they reached the outskirts where the open plain stretched wide under the setting sun. The silence between them was comfortable. Neither rushed to speak. Both were aware that words could not capture the gravity of the moment. The woman finally broke the quiet. "I am called Ayana," she said. "You are." He placed her belongings inside and she looked around, her expression thoughtful. "I have not had many chances to choose for myself," she said quietly. "Most of my life, others decided what I could do. Today was different. Will you respect them?" Jacob stroked it gently, watching her with quiet attention. Neither spoke for a while, each lost in their thoughts. The night stretched on, and for the first time, Ayana allowed herself to relax. She had been sold, yes, but now she was free in a way she had not imagined. She was with someone who saw her as a person, not property. And Jacob, for his part, understood that her strength, her voice, and her courage were what made her extraordinary. He was not there to change her or control her. He was there to protect her and offer a chance at freedom. As they settled in for the night, both felt a cautious hope. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, dangers, and moments of uncertainty. But in that small cabin, with the fire crackling and the night settling over the plains, something had shifted. Trust had begun to form, and with it, a bond that could grow stronger with each passing day. The cowboy and the Apache woman had met under strange and difficult circumstances. Yet in their meeting, both found the possibility of something new, something that promised respect, dignity, and the chance to make choices for themselves. The night was long, but for the first time in a long while, both felt a sense of peace. The journey had just begun, and the world outside would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. But together they would face it, and perhaps in facing it discover more than they had ever expected. The first light of dawn spilled across the plains, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. Jacob and Ayana awoke to the quiet sounds of nature, birds calling in the distance, the gentle rustle of grass in the morning breeze. For a moment they simply sat in the cabin, watching the day begin. There was an unspoken understanding between them now, a trust that had started to grow the night before. Neither spoke much, but their silence was comfortable, filled with the knowledge that they were both thinking of what lay ahead. Jacob broke the quiet first, carefully brushing the dust from his coat. "We need to leave soon," he said. "The town will be busy, and it's safer if we're on the move before too many people notice. We'll work together." But now, for the first time in a long time, she was moving through the world on her own terms, guided by choice, not by circumstance. Their journey was not easy. The plains were wide and open, but dangers were never far away. Wolves roamed in the distance, hungry for prey, and the occasional bandit still lingered near the trade routes. Jacob kept a careful watch, his eyes scanning the horizon. Yana, though skilled and aware, followed his lead, understanding that survival required caution and cooperation. As they rode, they began to talk. Yana spoke of her childhood among her people, the lessons her parents had taught her about respect, courage, and the land. She described the ways of the Apache, their traditions, their knowledge of plants, and how to find water in dry seasons. Jacob listened with genuine interest, asking questions and sharing stories of life on the trail. He spoke of long days under the sun, of storms that forced him to take shelter, and of moments when he had to make hard decisions to protect those he cared about. Through their conversation, a bond formed. It was not the sudden attachment of romance, but something deeper, a connection built on mutual respect, shared experiences, and understanding. Both had faced challenges in their lives, and both recognized the strength in the other. For Ayana, it was reassuring to find someone who did not see her only as a victim, but as a capable, intelligent woman. For Jacob, it was rare to meet someone whose courage matched his own, someone unafraid to speak her mind even in difficult circumstances. One afternoon, they reached a small river. The water ran clear, and the banks were lined with willow trees that swayed gently in the breeze. They dismounted and allowed their horses to drink, stretching their legs after the long ride. Gianna knelt by the river, cupping water in her hands to drink, and Jacob watched her quietly. "You've seen much of the world," he said, breaking the calm silence. "Do you ever wish things were different?" "That is why I trusted you." They found a small clearing and decided to rest for the night. Jacob started a small fire, careful to keep it low, while Iana collected dry wood and leaves to help it burn steadily. Sitting by the fire, they shared a simple meal of dried meat and bread. The conversation turned lighter, with stories of humor and small victories from their travels. They laughed softly, a sound that was rare and precious after the hardships they had both endured. The warmth of the fire and the comfort of shared stories made the night feel less lonely, and both found solace in the companionship. That night, as they lay beneath the stars, Iana spoke of her dreams for the future. "I want to live in a place where I am free," she said quietly. "A place where I can use my skills and knowledge, and where my voice matters." She had been through so much, and yet here she was, finding a companion who valued her as a person, not as property. It was a feeling she had almost forgotten, and it strengthened her resolve to take control of her own life. The following days were filled with travel and small challenges. They crossed streams, navigated forests, and avoided potential dangers. Each obstacle they faced together strengthened their trust. Yana's knowledge of the land proved invaluable, guiding them to safe paths and helping them avoid areas where bandits might be hiding. Jacob's experience on the trail and his calm, steady judgment kept them out of harm's way. During one quiet evening, as they set up camp near a small hill, Jacob noticed Ayana staring at the horizon. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I am thinking about the people I left behind," she said softly. "My family, my friends, I hope they are safe. And I am glad I have you with me. You see me as I am, not as others want me to be." They spoke of finding a place to settle, where Ayana could live freely and share her knowledge, and where Jacob could find peace after years on the trail. It was a vision of hope, simple yet powerful, giving them motivation to face whatever lay ahead. One evening, they came upon a small valley surrounded by gentle hills. A clear stream ran through it, and the land looked fertile and safe. They decided to set camp there, and as they explored, Ayana's eyes lit up. "This place," she said, "it could be home." The valley offered not only safety but also a sense of freedom, a space where Ayana could reclaim her life, and where Jacob could find purpose beyond wandering the plains. As night fell, they sat by the fire once more, looking up at the stars. The silence was filled with understanding and respect. Neither needed words to express the bond they had formed. Through trust, courage, and mutual respect, they had found companionship and the beginning of a new life. The journey had not been easy, and it would not be easy in the days to come. But for the first time in a long while, both felt a sense of hope. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and the harshness of the world together. And now, with trust and understanding as their guide, they were ready to face whatever the future held, side by side. The plain stretched endlessly beyond the valley, but here, in this small haven, they had found safety, freedom, and the possibility of a life built on choice rather than circumstance. The road had been long and difficult, but in each other they had discovered strength, courage, and the beginnings of a future filled with possibility. As they lay beneath the stars, the fire flickering softly beside them, both knew that the story of their lives was far from over. But for the first time, they faced it not with fear, but with hope, resilience, and the certainty that they could face the world together, with respect, trust, and freedom guiding their path.